Realme is mostly known for their budget mid-rangers, but they've stepped up their game with the Realme GT 5G. It's a true flagship killer that's now going global, and the other mid-rangers from the likes of Xiaomi and Samsung might need to watch their backs. I'm Will for GSM Arena, and this is our review of the Realme GT 5G. The Realme GT 5G has quite an interesting looking design. The blue color scheme features a glossy and dramatic gradient called accelerated track that fades out from those neon stripes in the center. The curved back panel is made from glass, and the phone feels nice in the hand. It's on the lighter side, and the slightly curved plastic frame isn't too slippery. There's also a racing yellow version of the Realme GT with a vegan leather back and prominent black stripe. The phone's display is a 6.43-inch AMOLED with a 1080p resolution and a punch hole at the top for the selfie cam. It's plenty sharp and contrasty thanks to OLED technology, and you have HDR10+ support. Color accuracy is great, especially if you tweak the colors through settings. And brightness is good too. We measured around 440 nits maximum with a slider, which boosts to 650 nits in auto mode when out in bright sun. The Realme GT 5G's display also features a fast 120Hz refresh rate, a feature which is quite popular these days. The high refresh rate makes swiping the UI and scrolling content much smoother, and it will revert back to 60Hz when you stop interacting with the display to save power. There's a responsive 360Hz touch sampling rate too. But unfortunately, high frame rate gaming isn't supported here. None of the games we tried pushed beyond 60 FPS, which is a shame because you have more than enough power under the hood to handle it. The Realme GT 5G features a Snapdragon 888 chipset, the same you'd find in some of this year's top Android flagships. And as you'd expect, both CPU and GPU performance are stellar. On top of having a smooth and hiccup-free interface and support for 5G connectivity, the Realme GT is able to handle the most demanding Android games. Sustained performance is also important though, and the Realme GT features a new stainless steel vapor cooling system to fight the heat. After an hour-long stress test, the phone wasn't that hot, but we still experienced significant thermal throttling. It is worth noting that we didn't experience slowdowns in an actual game though. Alright, moving on to audio quality. The Realme GT has both a headphone jack and a pair of stereo speakers with Dolby Atmos support. They're balanced enough and scored a very good mark on our loudness charts. Quality is okay, but not the best, with well-presented highs but lackluster mids and bass. You have the option for 128 or 256 gigs of storage on board the Realme GT 5G, and that's it. It isn't expandable. Waking up and unlocking the phone can be done with the blazing fast under-display fingerprint scanner. The phone's interface is Realme UI 2.0 based on Android 11. It's fluid and responsive, and for the most part pretty standard looking. Some unique features include the ability to minimize an app to a mini window, or a floating window from within the task manager. These are handy if you're into multitasking. There's a smart sidebar at the edge of the screen for storing shortcuts in, similar to what you'd see on a Samsung phone. Realme UI 2.0 has a Game Space app, which makes managing your game's performance and notification behavior a lot easier. And the UI is quite customizable between different themes, wallpapers, icon packs, and styles for the always-on display. Powering all of these features is a 4500 mAh battery, and the Realme GT does a nice job as far as battery life goes. It was able to score an endurance rating of 98 hours in our proprietary tests, one of the best we've seen from a Snapdragon 888 smartphone. Plus, the phone comes with a huge 65-watt Super Dart charger. It's incredibly fast. With it, we were able to charge the phone from 0 to 87% in 30 minutes, and the battery was full 7 minutes later. Finally, let's talk about the cameras. The Realme GT 5G has a 64-megapixel quad-Bayer main camera, an 8-megapixel ultra-wide cam, and a 2-megapixel macro cam. 16-megapixel photos from the main camera are pretty good, but not flagship grade. They have low noise, accurate colors, and excellent contrast and dynamic range. But while there is enough detail, the fine details and textures often come out smeared by the processing, and you can sometimes see an oil painting kind of effect. Portrait shots are decent. The subject separation isn't stellar, but these are detailed and sharp with nice colors and contrast. 8 megapixel photos from the ultra-wide are good, with enough detail, reasonably low noise, and wide dynamic range. The color rendition is different from the main cams though, with a more reddish tint. Close-up shots from the 2 megapixel macro cam are decent. They're colorful and have a good amount of detail for this resolution. Getting a sharp photo is a challenge though, since there's no autofocus here. Selfies are taken with a 16 megapixel front-facing cam. They have just an average level of detail, but the contrast, colors, and dynamic range are great. In low light, the main camera takes decent photos with balanced exposure and good sharpness and detail thanks to the gentle noise reduction. There are some clipped highlights visible here and there. If the light is low enough, night mode will automatically kick in, or you can turn it on with a toggle. These photos have a brighter exposure, more resolved detail, and saturated colors. The effect is nice, though highlights still remain clipped here. The low-light photos from the ultra-wide camera are not good. While they offer good colors, they are soft and dark, making them mostly unusable. This camera does support night mode though, and it makes a huge improvement. The exposure is much better, sharpness is great, and there's a lot of fine detail. The Realme GT can record video in up to 4K resolution with its main camera, and there's always-on electronic stabilization in all resolutions and modes. At 30 FPS, the 4K video quality is great, with plenty of detail, low noise, accurate colors, and above-average dynamic range. The ultra-wide cam can only shoot in 1080p resolution, and the quality here is just average. There's an okay amount of detail, but dynamic range is narrow and there's a noticeable reddish tinge. So that's the Realme GT 5G. You get a flashy design, a great-looking 120Hz AMOLED, a flagship chipset, stereo speakers, good battery life with super fast charging, and a good set of cameras, all for a much lower price than a flagship phone. Still, that doesn't quite mean that this is the flagship killer to rule them all. Even though you have the high refresh rate screen, there's no support for high FPS gaming, and we did notice some thermal throttling affecting the chipset when it's under heavy stress. But if you're not a hardcore gamer and don't really care about those things, the Realme GT 5G offers a ton of value and is worth recommending. Thanks for watching guys, stay safe and see you on the next one.